and find ways to win. And so we're going to keep doing that.
What felt better and worked better for you today with Thomas as the coordinator?
Yeah, I think us being in control, Thomas being in control. I think just getting a few calls in super fast. As soon as a play happened, Thomas was right on the headset, giving me the play. And then from there, I think he just strung plays together pretty well, and formations and motions and everything looking the same. And I think the guy's mindset, and I think it started early on this week when Thomas, got the job, and he went up in front of everybody and he talked about how this was going to be, and it was going to be a battle this week. But when we're out there, we're going to fight, and we're going to execute. We're going to fight. We're going to have that mindset of go out there and kick some tail. And the guys did a good job this week, throughout the week, showing that. And then obviously you get into game day and, you just do the same thing that you did in practice. And, hard work pays off.
What a week. Shane Waldron fired because he was too nice. Rumors of players wanting Caleb benched that were probably started by Tyson Bagent's father, as exposed by a Redditor named Roll of Duct Tape, that led to a segment on ESPN 1000 where they address that the source was not in fact Tyson Bagent's father, and how dare Roll of Duct Tape say such a thing. Mike Tyson is boxing again, and one of the Bears in the neighborhood went to Boston to avenge the Bears' Week 10 loss. Oh yeah, and the Bears played the frickin' Packers on Sunday. What a week. With all that chaos, the game, which had hints of a refresh from the week that was, ends in an all too familiar womp womp. A drive that sets up a possible game-winning field goal, a dash of late game time mismanagement, and a cheese-covered fingertip thrusting us deeper into the abyss, putting the Bears at 4-6 with Sunday's heartbreak of a loss to the Packers. So, what did we learn about the Bears this week?
You keep asking me this question.
I'm surprised you're not like, stop fucking asking me, man.
I think we just learned that, like, you're right, they can just break our heart in different ways, right? It's like a blowout loss. It's a Hail Mary. What are we going to do this week? Oh, let's just get our field goal attempt blocked, right? After our quarterback has an amazing drive to get us into field goal range. So that was obviously heartbreaking, but I think what I learned is that while Shane Waldron wasn't the complete problem with this coaching staff, he certainly added to it. If you look at Thomas Brown, I mean, it was one game, right? It was a pretty good debut, but the people that are anointing him is like, let's fire Foose and make him the head coach. Like, they still only scored 19 points. Like, it's not like they scored 35 points or something, but it was definitely an improvement, right? You saw Caleb have quicker time to throw. You saw some different formations. You heard on that clip that the play calls were coming in faster. And I think, honestly, that is attributed to Brown being up in the booth rather than on the sidelines. So on the sidelines, they get these printouts, like literal printouts. They have a printer out there of formations and things, and like they get it to the coordinator, and he looks at it. He gets like different play calls. He sets up the formations for the next drive. I think when you're up in the booth, you can do that stuff a lot faster, and you can see how things are moving a lot quicker. And there's less distractions. You're not on the sideline. So I think Thomas Brown getting those plays into Caleb faster really helped. We didn't have to take a timeout due to a possible delay of game, which is great. Now, was it perfect? No, there were still some illegal formations, illegal shifts, right? We can't seem to get out of our own way with that. But maybe that's just attributing to Brown's first go as a play caller. Maybe they were different. I'm not sure. They looked a little tighter, the formations, to be honest. And the screen actually worked, right? The wide receiver screen actually worked.
I know last week we said Keenan Allen was terrible at blocking, and he blocked great on that one that opened up DJ Moore.
Yeah. And I think what really helped with Thomas Brown is we kept talking about how they were putting Caleb in these third and longs because they just the screens wouldn't go anywhere. They'd get tackled for loss. 6 of their 16 third down plays were 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2. I mean, that's great, right? And then now not handing it off to offensive linemen anymore. They have a much better shot at picking up these low yardage third downs. And they were 3 for 3 on 4th down. So I think Caleb, you can tell, like, he certainly looked more comfortable, right? Him and Rome had a good connection.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the game, they were lighting it up. So I think that was positive to see. You saw Caleb use his legs more.
He ran with like I wrote in my notes at the end of the first half that they didn't score that much, but something felt a little different. Now, I was in Boston in a bar, like quietly listening to the game because they had on like TVs everywhere, so I couldn't like hear or feel. So I was just kind of like, but they looked like there was a different air to them. His runs, he wasn't like sliding as much, but it also wasn't like he was running into danger. It looked like he was trying to like get.
Yeah, he would slide or run out of bounds. He wasn't really taking any hits.
But
So
he
it was
was
good.
like,
It was good to see him use his legs.
And moving. There was like a little bit of it felt like a different intentionality with the runs that he like showed.
And they got points on their opening drive, right? Like,
Yeah.
Shane was 0 for 9 on getting points on his opening drive. Thomas Brown is 1 for 1 with largely the same personnel, almost exactly the same personnel. So that's something to look forward to, I'd say. But man, these guys just can't get out of their own way. And, a lot of it falls back on the head coach. We can talk about Flus over and over again, but the same mistakes keep coming up. He's just coaching scared. He doesn't understand situational football sometimes. Let's talk about it. And then dumb penalties, right? Like, they jumped off sides on a 4th down with Green Bay is like trying to draw them off sides. And you're like, don't do that. In the first score, they had 12 men on the field. They were offsides, and Green Bay still had like a wide open touchdown. It's like, what are you doing, Flus? This is like your side of the ball. Defensive discipline.
There was a when like Roshan one, I liked that Roshan was used early and like because something Sujal has been praying for since the beginning. Just use Roshan and but yeah, so got to see him early. But there was a point where he scored a touchdown. They were reviewing it, and then they said that he didn't get a touchdown, and then the Bears called a timeout. And then they got the touchdown again, so it didn't really matter. But I remember watching that being like, that seems kind of like not a good, like, shouldn't you be planning for both options? If it's a touchdown, we dance. If it's not a touchdown, like, why do you like
he's
that?
Not, it's a good observation. You're right. He's not 2 steps ahead. He's always just trying to intake information as it's coming to him rather than understanding what needs to be done ahead of time, right? He's a lagging indicators kind of guy, as you say in the business, not a leading indicators kind of guy, right? He just waits for information to come to him and then decides what to do rather than dictating what should happen.
And you can still take in the information and then still make a decision, but be prepared for like to anticipate that the touchdown isn't going to count is like one of 2 options. So it doesn't seem like it's that far to be like, what should we do? We'll just think about it.
Yeah, there's 2 things, there's 2 outcomes, and one of the outcomes you don't have to do anything else. It's
so
done.
You have one thing to plan.
So focus on the other thing.
Yeah, just let the refs fucking figure out if it's a touchdown or not. You could talk to your guys and be like, hey, what play should we run if it isn't? And then if we do, it's not like it's like he believes like once you say it, you can't use it again. So like if they talk about it and they did get the touchdown, they can never do whatever play they just like.
He's just not smart, man. And then of course at the end of the game, right? You're just like, did anybody feel like we were going to make that kick? I was just like, oh God, we're going to blow this, aren't we?
Okay. So shout out to Lone Star Daddy, who literally texted exactly what you said. Did anyone think? Now I want to at 2:12, I texted Sujal and I said the Bears are up 19-14 at this point, and it's somewhere in the 3rd quarter. And I texted Sujal and I said the Bears are going to win on a field goal. Now I was wrong. But I did, so I guess I might have been the only person who was like, they're actually going to hit that field goal.
You know what? And I say when the field goal was getting kicked, I was like, something bad's going to happen. But you know what was different about this game than the previous Patriots game is that even when the Bears were only down by 1 score, I was like, there's no way this team is going to score. Like, I just hope Caleb doesn't die. Like, I had no faith in it. But when the Packers took the lead and they didn't get the 2-point conversion, I was like, holy crap, we can win this game. Because watching the entire game, I was like, this team, Caleb can get us into field goal range. Like, I felt confident about that. I felt like this could happen. Where
Yeah.
that was very different from the 2 games before. I'm like, we can't do anything on offense.
They
So I
looked
guess
helpless.
that was kind of interesting to think about. And then of course he gets sacked on the first 2 plays, and I'm like, of course this happens, right? We like look like we're moving the ball. Offense is looking pretty good for most of the game, and then when it counts, we get sacked twice. And then he plays some hero ball, man, and he like puts this
Yeah.
drive together and throws some clutch passes to Rome, only to have like, various things happen to him. And yeah.
I guess what we were maybe witnessing is, there just seemed to be, it's like things looked so bad these last few weeks. So anything like, I guess, we keep saying you could get worse. And so compared to what we saw the last few
Yeah.
weeks, but like there was a feeling of like synchronicity. Maybe obviously he had a few throws that were off or whatever, but like, I mean, this is all just like observation.
I mean,
but
that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Jordan Love overthrew somebody
that throw
by a
was
mile.
gross. Yeah.
And it got intercepted. And because he won the game, nobody's going to talk about it, right? And it's like they miss all the time. The problem is that we just can't close it out at the end. Flus is just a detriment to us in 1-score games. Did you see the stat? He's 5-17 in 1-score games. 5-17.
There should be like rules, I think, for television where like if there's a certain amount of negative records that are up against your team, maybe they won't show it anymore. Like the Bears are now 0-11 against.
No, man, keep showing
that.
Keep showing it, because like people need to know, man. The McCaskies need to be embarrassed of what they're doing. And
yeah.
And if it's just Bears fans complaining, they're gonna, they don't care. We're still paying money. Stadium still sells out. But once they become like more and more of a national embarrassment, which they're starting to, I mean, every week you see like, oh yeah, the Bears are ruining Caleb, wonky ownership. They don't know what they're doing. I think that stuff does kind of get to them because they feel themselves as a reputable ownership group and like, doing things the right way. And so I don't think they like the negative publicity. So I'm all for it, man. I'm all for it. If it means some kind of change, keep showing these negative stats. You can't hide from them.
Yeah. Cat Williams earlier this year said the truth will be exposed. And so here we are, Cat, exposing it.
Yeah. I mean, Flus, man, dude, I can kind of understand some logic there. This is the most sacked quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you don't want to call a pass play because you don't want to get him sacked and knock yourself even further back from field goal range. But like, I don't know. Santos, I looked this up, 71 for 71 inside of 40 yards. You were at like 46, where he's like 75%. It's like, man, we had 36 seconds in a timeout. Can we at least try to get 5 more yards?
Can you take very quickly through like that sequence of what happened and then like what maybe would have been an ideal way to like run that sequence that they did, and maybe start with like a play or two before that got them to that field goal?
Yeah, so they had the first, they converted the 4th down, right? And then Caleb had another pass to Keenan, which was under review. So I think the clock did stop while they were reviewing that catch. So there's another time where Eberflus could have used that time to set up the next 2 or 3 plays of what he wanted to do. And maybe that's what his genius level intellect came up with, of like, well, it's going to run it once, call a timeout when there's 10 seconds left. That was what he did. That's what a safe coach does. But I think what I would have liked to seen is a quick pass option where Caleb can get rid of the ball quickly, so he can either throw it out of bounds, or you have the middle of the field, right? Use the middle of the field if you want to. If you run it on the sideline, you can get out, you can save your timeout, and then call your running play if you want to. I wouldn't have run the ball right there on 1st down. I would have passed it, and then depending on what happened there, called a timeout if it's in the middle of the field, or run it again if they got out of bounds, right? I don't know. I think you just had time for another play, especially with the timeout. You definitely had time for another play.
And he was playing pretty like mistake free. So to like ride the like, he's made good decisions all game. He hasn't thrown a shit ton of picks. Like
he just converted a 4th down.
He was rolling on that drive.
19.
He was fucking rolling on that drive. So in the rhythm of the person that's doing the thing, like
let him go, man. This guy, and he's the one yelling at Flus on the sideline to go for it on 4th downs, right? He's like, dude, let me ball. And Flus is just like, I think we've seen enough today. Let's coach scared.
at this point, especially when you're like 4 and now 5, and you're probably not making the playoffs, like the room for fear is not now. Like this is where like
Yeah,
walk into the scary house, man. Like you got nothing to lose. Like he
exactly. Play balls to the wall, dude. Like you're getting fired at the end of the year, you know,
almost
whatever.
could save your if you let him loose. Like there's a potential for him to actually like help himself by not playing scared and actually like kind of going for it for management to be like, damn, you know what? Over the course of the season, he actually like let Caleb play. Like there's like almost like a benefit to him if he in saving his job of not playing scared because scared means you're like you're not
Yeah.
trying anything and you're gonna get fired. Like
You
you're
know,
guaranteeing your fate by your own fear.
you know what's frustrating is watching the Chargers Bengals game last night, which was a great game.
Yeah.
And Jim Harbaugh, who was rumored to be a candidate for the job that Brian Poles didn't even bother interviewing, similar situation, but Jim Harbaugh ran an extra play and Dobbins broke it and scored a touchdown.
Yeah, he did.
And that was great. And then he still had the timeout left because, he kept that timeout. And then before the Bengals Hail Mary, he called a timeout to make sure all of his guys were lined up. It was basically a microcosm of what Eberflus did not do and his failures. And you're watching this guy to be like, yep, that's what we should have done. If we had an average coach, if the Bears had an average coach, they'd be 6-4. And then they lost a couple one-score games to the Texans and Colts. And you're like, well, maybe if we had an elite coach, we would have won one of those 2 games, right? It's just frustrating to see like there's some of the talent on this team, and you're like, where does this guy go? Cole Kmet was pretty well involved, right? Like, and
Yeah,
like,
he was.
where are these players that like we're just refusing to use? And it's just like, man, if we had a decent coaching staff, what would we be doing? And I feel like we just kind of wasted a year here.
Yeah, I mean, this seems to be such an interesting example of like, yeah, it's like the players are the ones throwing the ball, catching the ball, blocking, punting, kicking, but like there's that, like a team left without any direction, I feel like could probably be 500. Like just a team with no like coach, just play football, given your talents, just go out there and see what happens. And then
Matt
you bring a
LaFleur. Yeah, go ahead.
And I was saying, yeah, just like with the coach, like that's where you get your like what you just said, like good elite. That's where you start to add those wins and
Yeah.
become like the difference between 4-6 and 6-4 is that coach thing, like and that
Yeah.
adds,
Matt LaFleur had a quote after the game. He's like, the league is basically designed for you to go 500, and winning these close games, it's like all about execution and coaching. And you can see we're on the 5-17 side of that because we don't have competent coaching, that can get us through this. Until that changes, like this season's going to be just like that. It's going to be us finding ways to lose. And they might be more and more weird and abstract every single week, but we're not going to make the play or do the thing that needs to happen at the end of the game to win it. It's just kind of sad.
yeah, damn. Okay, so as we kind of close out this game, um, like we talked about over the course of the year, we've talked about like Caleb progressing. We don't want to see regression.
Mm-hmm.
Then we see regression, and like this seems like a very like I'd say not a decent, bigger than a small step, sort of back towards like the upward trend of Caleb's play decisions.
He looked more confident. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's what we look for, right? Against the Vikings next week at Soldier Field again. Brian Flores is a big time blitzer. He blitzes way more than any other coordinator. It's like not even close. But Caleb plays pretty well against the blitz. He's been doing really well against the blitz. Even in the Packer game, he's been doing pretty well. So I would look to see, let's see if this offense can string together 2 decent performances. I think Caleb only needs he needs less than 200 yards to break the Bears all-time rookie passing yards in the season record. So that's something to look out for next week. I think he needs like 180 yards or something. Podcast Dad, I'm sure, will tell us. But the records can be broken. Yay. But yeah, let's look for continued growth. I mean, they're 4-6. Season's out. Season's gone. I'd wait to anoint Thomas Brown, as having arrived. I'd like to see a couple more games put together. But you got to remember, this guy was getting he was an offensive coordinator, but he was getting some head coaching interviews as well. So he does have that persona. You can tell by the way he speaks and his moxie that he can command a room. So I don't know. Let's see if this guy can, help piece our offense together. And I guess that's all we have to look forward to, really.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. Anything you want to shout out about yourself?
Yeah. So, I was at Bears Talk for a while. I've moved over to On Tap Sports. So you can find me at On Tap Sports. I'll be providing some Bears content there, probably starting this week. So I'll shout out any future articles or anything that comes that way. So check me out there.
Hell yeah, congratulations. And also just want to
you.
give a very quick shout out to our listeners in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, which actually, correction, is Regina, Saskatchewan. When I said that this individual was from Saskatoon, he corrected me and said, don't ever mistake me for a Saskatoonian. So shout out to all our Saskatchewan fans.
That's a good shot. That's a good shout out.
For Samir Patel, I'm Chirag Rathod. We are the Bears in the Neighborhood, and we will catch y'all next week.